to the Nato Point stream. So it's Laura and I today, and
Oh.
it's also Black Friday all month long at Nato Point. And the coolest thing about being Black Friday at Nato Point, or Black Friday month really, because we're like, why do we have to do Black Friday on, Friday and then Cyber Monday?
Yeah, you don't have to wait. You can get the deal all month long with us. No reason to wait.
Yeah, that way, because I don't know, otherwise it's intense and stuff like that. So what we decided to do instead is, let me tell you. Yeah, exactly. You want to take that pressure off. So the thing that I really wanted to get into is we teach skills for basically cloud, for anyone who's ever heard of cloud. I've built cloud technologies throughout my career. I've been parts of building cloud projects from ground up. And the reality is that cloud, the reason why we teach cloud is because for Black Friday, if we really want to give everyone a true bargain and a true deal, this is the time when people have time to study. So it's nice and all to have discounts. Great, that's nice, I guess. But what's really exciting is having skills that make you make significantly more money next year. And something that a lot of people just simply don't know about the tech industry. So for those of you who've been working in cybersecurity and all these other industries, well, cloud security tends to pay higher than other areas of cybersecurity, whether it's pen testing or not. But not only does pen testing and cloud all that teach more, as January, February is when companies start to hire. And if anyone's been trying to get a job all year, you've probably run into this nightmare that it was a really hard time to get a job, and it's still hard to get a job in January, February, but the easiest time of the year in the tech sphere.
It's when people are actually hiring, actively looking for new talent.
It's because...
So, essentially what we're saying is that for Black Friday this year, don't just buy, stuff for your friends and family. With Nostra Point this year, you can basically buy a new career.
Yeah. That's what we're doing. We want to sell you a career so that you can make more money, because people right now are trying to learn how to make money online, and for good reason. Mm-hmm. It's a very good reason. And,
Yeah, I mean, we've all gone so remote in 2020, and I'm sure pretty much everybody out there can relate to that. We started out, remote in March, and everybody, I think, kind of thought we'd go back, and then it's just maybe we won't go back to in an office career anytime soon. So, having these remote skills is a great way to leverage yourself and make yourself more hireable.
Yeah, and the reality is numbers don't lie, because before, the pandemic hit and all these things, we were doing fine and all, but as soon as everyone started going online, we are an online business. And let me just give everyone the reality is companies started closing their offices and people started doing all this stuff, and everyone just started going online. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, all these people are oh, how do you run online business? We're well, here's some things to help you. Here's some things to help you. And our business has just performed better and better and better and better. But let me tell you a secret that's not unique to us is any company who's been online, especially cloud companies, right now, cloud companies are making all of the money because, well, that's what's happening, because they're the ones who are hosting all the technology. That's where all the world's infrastructure is quite literally going. Mm-hmm. And, offices, people who used to have data centers, what you call on-prem, at their office, they're closing their offices and instead opting to use cloud services and send all their employees home. And they're well, it's, we pay all this money for the office and this data center. Now we can't even have people in the office to manage the data center, which is another nightmare already.
Right.
Yeah. And so
basically we want to be able to teach you these skills in an affordable way, so that you can start a new life, a new career in 2021. Screw 2020, we're all over it, let's be honest.
Yeah.
What can we do to create better lives for ourselves next year and into the future, and even starting tomorrow? I mean, again, with Black Friday at Nato Point, it's all month long. You can start tonight if you want.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the skills what some of our deals are, how you can learn these skills for less than $1,000 at Nato Point, which is huge, because Nathan, you were saying to me earlier that you used to teach these sorts of skills to people for corporations for $20,000 a seat.
Yeah, well, yeah, and for $20,000 a seat, that's right, or more, or you could go to an academy, or a university. And a lot of trade schools, it might be $60,000 to go to trade school, or
But the
it
point
might
of
be.
that too was like you were saying you were teaching people for $20,000 and they weren't even getting to touch the infrastructure.
Yeah,
like,
that's
that
true.
was all just like you're not even getting hands-on experience for $20,000. What are you even getting for that? Like,
Yeah,
a
theory
bunch of theory
and simulations
and stuff that you probably can just look up later anyway when you get your hands on the actual technology.
And the instructors building the simulations that the students learn on get all the experience, while the students are like, well, I get to work in the simulation, but I don't really get to get my hands dirty, And so, like, I'll just give you an idea. Like, for example, I made this post right here because if anyone's been around the internet and things, you might have seen this video for like one of the world's largest, maybe the world's largest Raspberry Pi data center. What we teach is nothing new. What we teach is nothing unique. And the other thing about it is hardware. If you've ever played a video game on PC or you installed software on your PC, it'll say something like minimum hardware required, and it'll tell you like you can use this tiny laptop and it'll run the software, or Photoshop. Or you can get a desktop and run Photoshop. Photoshop will run on more than just one thing. But what if you want to build cloud? Cloud nowadays is like trying to figure out what system do you want to install Photoshop in. Mm-hmm. If it'll run Photoshop, just install it. But what if you want to install the stuff to build a cloud? All you have to do is have infrastructure, and Raspberry Pis are now powerful enough infrastructure to build things like Kubernetes on, which is cloud standard. And Kubernetes is scalable, so even if you start on lightweight hardware, you can always grow and add other hardware as needed. And what we do is we just quite literally give you exactly what would let you start developing, even if you wanted to start a business or build your own product. And so just as Laura's saying, so Laura, what's the real big kicker about this? Because I mean, I guess it's like, oh, what are we selling, a case? Like, what is this?
Well, so what this is a Raspberry Pi. It's a Raspberry Pi computer that is designed and custom built by us here in Notia Point, plus a workshop that teaches you how to image an OS onto it, just how to get it up and running, how to SSH into it, and then you also learn things like clustering, like Nathan is talking about, so you can build a supercomputer with Raspberry Pis and Kubernetes, as well as we're working on an expansion for this course as well that will be coming out in the next couple weeks, that has cloud, that teaches cloud and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, actually just this Friday we're going to start showing people how we actually build our cloud continuous products, because the reality is if you learn from our workshops live in our own apps hosted in a cloud that we build and manage.
Yeah, so again, to get back to this, so you can essentially learn cloud technology and cybersecurity skills here with us at Notia Point. You can get this Raspberry Pi computer that we build. You can pick your color. Our CTO designed these cases and the cooling solution, which is powered by Noctua. Like these things are little beasts of computers, thanks to the engineering of our CTO. And so we make every single one of these by hand in-house.
Yep.
Using a Raspberry, and it's all, of course, built around a Raspberry Pi PCB. And then you get the workshop as well. And that's, of course, just $500. If you want to get 8 gigs of RAM, it's $50 more. And then we're also offering a deal that if you buy the Pi Tinker Home Lab and Workshop, as like this bundle that you're looking at on the screen right here, if you buy this with the Pi Hacker Experience, which is sort of our flagship cybersecurity course, that comes with a full cybersecurity job simulation.
Yep.
You can get that for 50% off. That's an $800 course. You can get it for $400, meaning you can get all of this for less than $1,000 to start your new career like today. Get started, get a new job in January and February when all of these cybersecurity companies are going to be hiring. And cybersecurity companies are still hiring during, even with the pandemic. They're,
Yeah.
everybody's more vulnerable now because of circumstances, because we're all online now. And so get PyHacker experience, learn the actual like job role skills that you'll be using in the 4 different job RPG that we offer in that program, and go get yourself a new job with some really high value skills.
And the reality is, like, not every industry can afford to open hiring like companies used to back in the day. So why in the world are we so focused on, like, get this now? Well, like 2021, January, February, this is your time. You want to be ready before January starts. As soon as it's like January 5th, whoever's the first to start getting themselves out there and applying to the companies, these are going to be the ones who get the jobs, which it's still a race. It's still a war, sure. But you are dramatically increasing your chances to get an opportunity. And why does our program help people get programs? Because once again, why cloud? Cloud companies can hire. That's the reality, is not everyone can hire. Not only can cloud companies hire, but they're making more money than everyone else right now. And they're making the most money because everyone's giving their money to the cloud companies, which means that they're the ones they're like the only ones who are mass hiring. There's a few others, sure. Technology is doing fine if you're like an online business. But cloud is really at a pinnacle, especially in terms of being able to afford hiring and things like that. So, like, why would someone hire you out of our program? Not only... So let me tell you something. If you're trying to learn like cloud and things like that, you're not oftentimes getting like hands-on experience where when you go into an interview, you might be able to get an interview, you might be able to get all these things, but like unless you can get your hands dirty, as soon as people start asking technical questions and other things like that, or you start getting into the work, you might not be able to answer the technical questions to get through the interview. And forbid, I've run into people who get into a job past the interview and then lose their job in 3 months because they actually couldn't do the work. Well, let me tell you, the reality is, if you build your own cloud at home, it works like Kubernetes is Kubernetes. It doesn't matter if you build Kubernetes on this or on a $12 million infrastructure data center for a company where they would never let you practice learning this stuff on their $12 million infrastructure. It's just not going to happen. But you can learn on, you know, one of our systems, and if you just pick up basically like our ultra cooling system, which is this one that has just a single Pi, like if you were to just say, you know, I'm going to go ahead and bundle this. Let's say that you just add this item to cart, and let's say that you do want to bundle to spend less than $1,000 to get a career that might pay $50, $60, $100,000. It's easier to make $100,000 in the cloud industry right now than in most industries too, if for those who are kind of into trying to get into 6-figure income ranges. But even if you're just trying to get a job, you want to get a job that can pay the bills, and even the lower paying jobs in cloud are more likely to help, like, be able to pay you enough to pay the bills, which is why we're like, let's push people in areas that will help them sustain themselves. I'm not going to point you toward a job that's not going to help you sustain yourself. And so normally the PyHacker experience right here is, you know, it's normally $800. But when you have both of these in the cart together, you save...
Automatically giving you a $400 discount.
Yeah, it automatically is going to give you the discount. I could remove the hardware right here and notice that all of a sudden, you know, it's the reason why it costs this much is because the skills we teach, like, it has an ROI on it. It's not like we're teaching people how to bag groceries.
Right.
like, you know, so anyways, it's just one of those things. And we have free coaching Friday and free resources. For people who just want free, we have free things. But for people who want to make money, like especially a lot more money a lot faster, people who want to make a lot more money a lot faster, this is what you should consider. And there's also a reason why we call our program Zero to Hero, because by the time you get this program, keep in mind that this takes, you know, the fastest anyone's gotten through Zero to Hero is 2 months.
Yeah.
And if you start now, people have gotten jobs in the middle of doing the PyHacker experience. But just keep in mind that if you're trying to complete the PyHacker experience and you're trying to be ready to start applying to jobs, then you really need to get on this now, because this is your window for having breaks, for having, you know, your holiday and time to study, time to research, and, you know.
And also, if you're an educator, this is another great way for you to really get a good hands-on experience. Nathan, you want to talk a little bit more about how people who teach this sort of stuff can learn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. So one of the things about us is like we educate and all that stuff. Yay, great. However, great, good stuff. And while we do have we have a Facebook group and we have a Discord, but the thing about the Facebook group and the Discord is we don't own that. It's not like our asset, right? Discord is Discord. It's not our asset. It's not our platform. But what if I told you that, for much less money than what most people spend to run their infrastructure, you can actually build your own platform, your own products, which this right here, this is what's called a learning management system. And for us, we have to build and engineer this stuff. Now we have to outsource some of what we're doing right now for the sake of time, but even we, to save our costs, are moving over to our platform that we develop ourselves because it's more affordable than the I guess really kind of more legacy becoming models. Mm-hmm. Because if I go to any of these workshops, let's take a look at the Pied Hacker Experience workshop. If I just open this workshop, the reality is that you don't need the fastest systems to run the Pied Hacker Experience, like something that can host this. Like all these things, it's just a bunch of links, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. You don't need a $2 million data center to basically have a product that you can use for education. And a lot of educators out there, I see this where you're trying to figure out what's something that's going to make it affordable to deliver education to your students. And so we are going to be showing we had released a downloadable expansion for the Pied Hacker Experience. That's why we call it Zero to Hero now. That was a DLC expansion that we released to show you just how feasible and how quickly even we can rapidly release a cloud product and release a continuous DevSecOps update to our own product to release a DLC expansion. We're going to be expanding our Pied Tinker workshop. So if you buy
the next one, yes.
Yeah. So if you buy one of these, you get the Pied Tinker workshop, and this is the workshop that we're going to be performing live DevSecOps for.
The update will. It all happens in real time. So if you buy that program, mm-hmm. when the update goes live, you'll just automatically have access to it. So don't worry that you're not getting the latest and greatest version of the Pied Tinker workshop, because you will get all of the updates that we are putting out. So
yeah. And if you're an entrepreneur, oh, totally. That's they need to know these things. If you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, then what this also means is you're going to see that our team within 2 days is going to build an entire product expansion and release it.
So that's the other thing that you get access with. That's another part of our kind of Black Friday special, is if you buy the Pied Tinker workshop bundle. Whether you buy it with the Pied Hacker Experience or buy it by itself, or you buy a Pied Hacker Experience by itself, you will get 1 free month in the DevSecOps Dojo. And on Friday, all Dojo members will have access to this live sprint that Nathan is mm-hmm. going to be doing to develop this DLC for the Pied Tinker workshop.
Yeah, and so while it might take months to learn the skills,
essentially from nothing to something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's if it might take months to learn the skills, what I want to do is show you is I already have these skills, which is why I teach them. And I just want to show you once you have the skills that I have, just how fast you can just rapidly deploy a product that you sell and make money on. Mm-hmm. And so for business owners, that's a thing that a lot of people don't even know is even possible. They're wait, you just built a product and released it? We built the Pied Hacker Experience in July, released it in August, released an expansion for it in September, released a new workshop. Every month we've been releasing a workshop, and now our full lineup is finally released, just to kind of show you what that looks like. We released our full lineup as of this November so that we have our full platform. And how in the world did we literally just magically fabricate products? Most people don't even know how to do this stuff. And then not only did we fabricate it,
they're not fabricated, they're real.
Yeah, we had to engineer it. We had to build it.
We engineer our own products, yes.
Yeah, and we make it look easy. And really, it takes months to learn how to do things as fast as we do, but we're giving people the superpower we have, which is why can we do whatever we want?
Right, so essentially you can learn NATO skills directly from NATO. And so the way these workshops work is they are video lessons, so you can kind of go through them at your own pace. But then in addition to that, you get access to our private Discord server where you can, ask for support, live support. You can talk to Nathan there. and essentially have access to all of us on the Notia Point team through the Discord servers. And it's a great resource, that nice bonus that you get in addition to these awesome workshops where, again, you can learn Nathan's skills directly from him.
Yeah, and the thing is, I learned my skills from a lot of people, and a lot of companies paid a lot of money for my education, and before that I paid a lot for education too. So really, I'm giving you a massive amount of my knowledge transfer, which is a massive amount of knowledge transfer from many, many people.
Yeah, and essentially, I guess the other point of all of this is like you were saying, the most expensive supercomputer in the world is $12 million or something. Maybe that's not.
That's not the most expensive is $100 billion or something. I don't know. No, that's an exaggeration. It's probably, I've worked on an $11 billion data center set of infrastructure.
Right.
In the past.
Right. So essentially, you don't need a company with that sort of infrastructure to learn these skills.
Yes,
anymore.
that's
you
the
can
point.
Learn it
yeah.
From us.
Yeah.
With us, alongside us, and then go out and get a better job in 2021.
Yeah, because before this technology came out in 2019, it was simply just really too expensive to afford to even learn these skills at home, generally speaking. You could learn on the weaker Raspberry Pi, but the new Raspberry Pi is powerful enough to host actual applications on, host actual products on, and you can build learning management centers. So I'm going to go ahead and show them just straight up exactly, without giving away too much, because I don't have 12 hours to build something right now for them. I'm gonna build our workshop on Friday and Saturday, so you need to sign up for our program before Friday and Saturday to actually watch me build this stuff. But first, I'm just gonna go on the talking points for what's the technology where you can actually deploy an entire classroom on a Raspberry Pi data center to the whole world, and you can launch a business on that. If you're a business owner and you're saving up millions of dollars, well, keep the millions of dollars and spend a teeny tiny amount on your infrastructure compared to what you might have thought you were going to save up for, and put all of that money on talent instead, and put that money into your people, and let your infrastructure be affordable.
Exactly. Right.
Money into people, affordable infrastructure if you're a business owner. So entrepreneurs out there, you have an advantage if you don't already have expensive infrastructure to manage. Anyone who doesn't already have expensive infrastructure to manage, or is at a point where they're ready to migrate, now's the time to start migrating to infinitely more affordable data center technologies. And so also, if you are pro, that's what the DevSecOps Dojo is all about. So let me go ahead and start talking to them about what are the things.
Sounds good. I'm going to let Nato take it away.
Yeah, totally. So
high five.
Thank you for
Black Friday all month long.
We worked so hard. Laura's the one who engineered our learning management center, by the way.
I sure did. I build all these classes. Nathan records the videos, and then I put them all together. And
yeah, she engineers these workshops because she's much better at the aesthetic things and all that stuff, and she works with the outsourced team.
I've done a lot more web design and engineering than Nathan has.
But. Yeah, so really the code part. So what Laura doesn't know how to do is have something that you can put the code on.
I'm learning.
I teach how to have the thing to put the code on, which is why we target senior developers, because senior developers they're like, well, I have the skills to build code. A lot of you watching might even have the skills to build code, but you don't have something to build code on, and you don't have the money for the hosting necessarily, or maybe you do. Or if you're like, I want to take my money and put more of it into labor and other things and not spend all of my money on infrastructure, you no longer have to spend all your money on infrastructure anymore. It's like the modern world.
That's right.
I'm so excited about that. So really, 2020, our Black Friday month is, why don't we teach everyone how to make more money by we'll give everyone some discounts to learn how to make a lot more money in 2021.
Definitely. So if you go to notiapoint.com, I'm just going to show you really quickly. You can find the home lab that we were talking about right here. So go ahead, check that out, and come learn with us.
Yeah,
okay,
so let's go ahead and make a quick transition. So Nathan, I'm gonna switch to something.
Leave my chair there.
I'm going to send this video session to something real quick because I want people to see what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a little demo real quick, like a high-level demo, just kind of showing how easy it is to provision a product. Anyone who knows what provisioning is, I'm going to literally show you how to provision a product on modern technology. So let me go ahead. For those who are in the DevSecOps Dojo and not watching, so I'm going to get ready to start doing a little demo here. For those of you who are watching, I'm just going to show you some, like, very high level, because I'm going to do a full sprint Friday and Saturday to show, like, the development bits. But let me show you how you all can do a little engineering yourselves or know how to do some engineering yourselves. So bear with me for just a moment. Okay, so if I take a look at my little demo system, because I have a little development system that I do things with. I have a couple of different systems. But when you're doing building, you're doing engineering, let me give you like a physical idea of like what is it that we teach, all this good stuff. So this right here is a Raspberry Pi supercomputer. I showed this briefly. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a Raspberry Pi data center before, but it's a thing these days because if you're just trying to host something like a learning management system or some of these other things, honestly, if you're just trying to figure out what to do with the learning management center, you don't need the most powerful hardware. You need more RAM and more cores. So if RAM and cores is what you need, and you need more distributed computing, sometimes you need speed of cores, speed of processing, things like that. But the Raspberry Pi is an outstanding distributed computing system. So anyone who's like, well, okay, so, hosting cloud, but can you really? People already do. This is nothing new. Let me tell everyone right now is that what I teach is not unique. It's not something that no one else knows. I'm not a wizard. This is common knowledge among a very teeny, tiny community of people, of data scientists and people who build cloud and people who do cloud and engineering. So really, I'm teaching normal people the skills that people who come from Cloudland know. Maybe you don't know what people in Cloudland know. That's why I'm here, because if you don't come from Cloudland, there's certain things that you just don't know. Now, if you're trying to do something called graphics acceleration, a Raspberry Pi might not be enough of what you're doing, but graphics acceleration is a whole nother beast. And I'm going to teach you something where it's like, for example, we don't use graphics acceleration on our infrastructure for our workshops here. Like these are really basic things. So like something like, or even just like a website. You can host a website on, or a forum on Raspberry Pis for things like, something like Reddit, for example. Reddit probably doesn't require the most power, but Reddit requires distributed computing, for example. Now, granted, Reddit probably has more money to get certain things, but if you're not loaded to the ceiling, you don't necessarily need to spend all your money to have like overkill hardware to run something like this, right? Instead, you need distributed computing, So if I go back over to this page right here, where we're taking a look at my little cluster, it doesn't matter how many systems I have added to this. I could add as many Raspberry Pis as you saw in that picture. So what I'm doing is literally nothing new. It's not unique. It's not magic or wizardry, but to those of you on the outside, it might sound like magic, it might sound like wizardry. And when you have like a little distributed cloud computing system, which this is a dual system cloud, just kind of to show off, like this right here is a dual system set of hardware. If you're typically just trying to learn, you don't get access to infrastructure the same way as if you just have your own infrastructure at home. And if you have your own infrastructure at home, you can learn the network engineering, you can learn all the things for the foundations of clustering, all the things that you actually have to, like, you might not know what uplinking is. If you don't know what uplinking is, or if you don't know what HA is, which is called high availability, you can learn uplinking, you can learn high availability, you can learn what redundancy is, you can learn how to use redundancy. All of these things, you don't have to, if you accidentally crash your cloud, you don't have to call up the data center and be like, hey, I can't access that node. Can you make that node show up again? And then when you're calling the data center support, like, if you don't know what to tell them, they'll be trying to ask you questions. They're like, well, what are you experiencing? And so that they can try to figure out, what they physically need to go do to do the infrastructure. And so it's good to know that knowledge. Someone said I should look at the Facebook chat, but my Facebook chat shows nothing. So if someone else can see the Facebook chat or tell me what it says.
Well, somebody was asking, what is provisioning?
Oh, what is provisioning? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see, it's there. Oh.
Where?
Oh, it hasn't come up yet. It's delayed a little bit.
Oh.
Oh, question from YouTube viewers. What is provisioning? It's there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Thank you, everyone who's helping me keep up. Nowadays, we have so much going on. I've never had this much going on in my life, ever, literally. So let's talk. Before I start getting into this, let me talk about what provisioning is at a high level. So let's talk about, like, what's the concept of, what is provisioning? Like predicting the future, but it's kind of like this. Building technology and building sim and building cloud is very much so like a construction operation. And maybe the reason why I think about this is like when I grew up, my parents were entrepreneurs, and of course, as entrepreneurs, they worked with investors. And like our number one investor, who like made sure that we could eat and things like that, he ran a construction company that's now grown into like a multi-billion-dollar construction company. And so it's like watching him build this construction company. Provisioning is something where, like, if you're going to build a skyscraper or you're going to build a concert hall, you don't want to just sit there and say, all right, everyone, let's, I guess we'll just start building. No, like, that's never going to fly. No, you don't just start building a skyscraper, and you don't just start building a concert hall, right? And so it's like one of the places they built was like the Betcher Concert Hall. And I just remember, like, when the Betcher Concert Hall in Colorado was first getting built, you're like, okay, that's interesting. He's like telling us, he's like, yeah, it's going to have like screens on the back of the little seats and stuff maybe, and talking about all these things he's going to do for the concert hall. Or it was whatever the ballet hall, I think it's the Betcher, or is the one next to it. Either way, it doesn't matter. The one that has the little screens behind the seats where they do like ballet and stuff. But he's like, it's going to look just like this, and it's going to work just like this. And then, of course, it took years to build the concert hall, but they had to know exactly what they needed. They needed to know what the budget was. They needed to know all of the things before they even began, including like what might fail, what's going to work well, so that they can start building and know that the project's actually going to work and that it's actually going to get completed and that they're not just literally flushing money down the toilet. So I'll just say it just like that. It's like construction. It's kind of like building a building. That's probably a really good blunt way to put it. So I guess you could think of it as like almost like predicting the future, almost. But it's scientific in nature, so it's not you're not predicting it. So we teach the scientific method, and we teach first principle thinking, which is also what Elon Musk used to get SpaceX to be able to launch like a rocket that can come back and land, use first principle thinking. And if you're working with the sciences, when you're working with anything that's unknown, you have to know how to use the scientific method, and you have to know how to apply it, and all that good stuff. And we also teach something called code theory. But if you want to be a person who can do all of these things, right? If you want to be a person who can basically like know exactly, what you're going to build, how it's going to work, so that you know exactly how much hardware you're going to need, that you have the money to do that. How did I know that we could pull off what we're doing right now? Provisioning. It was June this year. I was like, okay, we're going to stop working with contract accounts and try to build our own infrastructure with the capital that we have, and we're going to like set up a budget. And within 6 months we should have like a full product line, a full platform, like our own software and all this stuff, when we literally didn't have anything that was our own. We didn't have any of these assets. And so I spent all of June provisioning, so trying to plan ahead. And so through June, it's like, okay, I had to know that we would be able to survive to the point where the products are here. And then once the products are here, then it's easy. Now we're like, okay, great. Products are here, sell, so we can earn our money back. It's like reinvesting and then having the confidence to know that your products are going to sell and that they're going to work. And we quite literally did it because of provisioning. So it wasn't luck that I got here. It wasn't magic that we got here. It was scientific. It was provisioning. It was planning. And we teach that. And while most people might not know how to do it as fast as I've done this, I've done this a lot. I've worked with other companies doing a lot of provisioning. I've helped people build platforms. I used to do SIM deployments, and SIM deployments, some of them took like 3 years. And so I would have to like tell people like, okay, so this is what your budget will look like for the next 3 years. So let me even just outline this. Might need to predict up to 3 years at a time. So when you're doing cloud, this is a big deal because once your cloud is built and it's running, you don't want to have the nightmare of having no idea how to scale your cloud or some of these other things. And it's kind of magical for anyone who's never experienced what we're actually doing right now. Someone in one of the chats said, Sarah Kirk, who's our basically our community guru, made a good point. Is it does feel kind of magical when you've sat there and you're like, I think this is possible with the exact budget that I have, and if I do it in this exact timeline, like for example, we only need like 2 sales a month to continue business at this point because we provisioned it so that, like, forbid I have to get more than 2 sales to keep building. We would be doomed. I don't know how, because it's like I don't have time to do all that. Now that we have our team's expanding, that'll change soon. But it's like I had to predict that we had to be in a place where we could grow our business on 2 sales a month with like barely any cash flow coming in, and like hustle until we get to the finish line and be like, finish line, we built it, let's go. And now we're like, okay, cool, we did it. We started making our own money already, even along the way, to help further fund what we're doing. Let's teach other people how to do it because it's nothing new. What I do, I'm just doing the same thing I've done for years at this point. Like you build a cloud for one company, you end up building cloud stuff for another company, and then when you get development skills, you have something to develop on. So yeah, and now we do have we have Sarah Kirk, who's joined us to really make sure that we can actually get out a sales presence, so I can keep focusing on development, because believe it or not, it's possible to develop and sell at the same time. Well, Laura did a lot of development, but it's possible for 2 people to like build a whole company from like dust. And actually our appliances are built by Jordan Anderson, so we wouldn't have appliances without Jordan Anderson, which is the part that really like seals the deal. Is like we're trying to figure out how can we actually really make this a complete program where we're really teaching you the infrastructure and literally everything. It's finally affordable to teach people infrastructure, because once you have the infrastructure, the code part, Stack Overflow, why do we target senior developers for saying like this is a beneficial thing for senior developers? Because senior developers already know how to develop. But what senior developers spent their time on is more maybe the code, but not the infrastructure. So a senior developer, if someone hands them something like this and tells them how to use it, they can do the code. And so if you already know the code, go do the stuff you got to do. And like I think about our ex-interns. Our last intern, who like I stay in touch with everyone who's worked with us. So like Lavia's been outstanding, and she's moved on to new oceans and new horizons in the DevSecOps world. And then we have Jordan M, who's moving on to new horizons in the DevSecOps world. And now we're just expanding our team. We've got more interns. I want to say also welcome on board for our new interns is Eva. Who is part of our team for anyone who's had the opportunity to say hello to Eva. So anyone who can ever get a chance to say hello to her, say hello. And also Melissa is also someone else who's new on our team. So stuff's happening faster than I can barely keep up with. So I'm just trying to stay alive and trying to develop while we're at it because it just moves too fast. So if you want to have the problem we have where everything moves too fast, like get into cloud. Honestly, cloud it moves so fast that you'll have trouble keeping up with it. But we teach the stuff so that you can learn how to do these bits. And so if you can build basically a data center where you have like your development cluster and you can host in this, right? You can start to build hosting. You can build little apps in here. Our Pied Hacker Experience program teaches you how to build hosting with these cloud tools, and we start by teaching you how to build a cybersecurity program from ground up so that you learn the infrastructure and you learn how to set up hosting. And then just by buying this kit and getting the Pied Hacker Experience and getting that bundle brings you to the point to where you know the hosting, you know the infrastructure, and then if you have developer skills, you can pretty much do anything you want. Hence, we introduced the DevSecOps Dojo. And so just to give you an idea of like, if anyone's ever heard of Moodle, let me tell you a way that you can actually, let's see. So if you ever wanted to build your own classes, because I have some of you who've been asking me these questions, some of you teach. One of the things is we get a lot of educators who are wondering how we do what we do and how we afford to do what we do. Well, educators, I'm about to blow your minds because I'm about to make your lives easier and save you a ton of money if you want to get into some of this stuff, because like for pennies you can pretty much deploy a learning management center, because Moodle is more or less I don't know if it's true open source, but it has a free plan if it's not open source, but I think it is open source. Moodle is a learning management center, which a learning management center is like this. This is a learning management center right here on the screen, where we have our workshops. This is what this is. This would be hosted in something where even we are considering moving over to a Moodle-based configuration on our infrastructure from our old infrastructure, because while we started on things that saved us time, now we're more focused on things that save us money. When you're running business, time's important, but then once you kind of figure out the time piece, you kind of want to figure out the budgetary things so you can maximize your budget. How do you maximize your budget? Move everything off of your expensive infrastructure and onto really affordable infrastructure. And there's a reason why we're building a cloud underground, because we can build hosting that's so painfully affordable, where we can also continuously train people with our building resources. If you wanted to be an instructor, you could get something like this. Learn how to do the hosting. If you need more infrastructure, it automatically scales. So you can add up to 5,000 of these, right? So really, this can sit on this. You can just keep scaling your hardware. So it doesn't, this might be 2 systems, but supercomputers aren't that simple and don't just end that simply. So if I go over to Moodle has what's called a Docker container. So for anyone who's ever heard of If anyone's ever heard of Docker, there's this tool called Docker that we build, that we teach people how to develop in, and also Kubernetes, which is a cloud technology. For anyone who's ever heard of Kubernetes, Kubernetes can use Docker images. And so Moodle actually has, people have built, you can go in here and people have built Moodle instances that are optimized already for Raspberry Pi. So right away, just because Docker exists, you can set up one of these and then like literally just deploy this image in your little learning center, and anyone who's like been doing a little bit of development might already know what I'm talking about. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's why you should take the Pied Hacker Experience, because then you'll know all this stuff, which is why we made the program, because it's way too complicated to just know this stuff overnight. And so, like, really, just because this is here, you don't even have to know how half of the code for Moodle is built, because this is called infrastructure as code, where you can pretty much just host Moodle straight from your development center, and you can basically just host your classroom and build whatever class you want today, tomorrow, next week, which is why we are going to do a live DevSecOps DLC expansion of one of our workshops, just to show that it's not that scary to build your own education products, especially for educators. And if you're trying to build a non-education product, you can host whatever you want. Like, there's all kinds of images. Like, it doesn't have to be Moodle, but if the application can run on a Raspberry Pi, then it can be hosted in a Raspberry Pi data center. And there you go. Distributed computing, supercomputing. You can host websites, you can host basic things, you can host most cybersecurity tools really don't, like, most cybersecurity tools like SIM tools and things like that. I'll show you right now. This is an enterprise, really it's an IT tool, but we use it with a combination of security information that we feed into it, and this has event management built into it. So with our infrastructure that you build with the Pied Hacker Experience, you can actually combine it with this enterprise system monitoring tool, and you can run enterprise monitoring in your cluster. There you go. And so you can have SIM for the cost of, and this is open source software, so you're not paying monthly licenses. Now, the one thing that is a downside of that is, instead of paying licensing, you have to pay talent. But don't you want talent anyways? And then if you're having talent building your own resources and your own assets, if you're building with open source, those developments that you're using, instead of paying a license, this becomes your asset. And it's a much more powerful asset when you don't have licenses tied to it. And when you don't have a lot of money for licenses, maybe licenses aren't an option because you don't have the money for licenses, and you can at least start with open source and things like that. And when you make a little money, you can start to pay people. Make a little more money, start to pay people, but you don't have to ever worry about the licensing. And then when you go on like hard times or whatever, you don't have these licensing costs and fees getting in the way. And so really, especially if you're an educator, education's a painfully hard thing to make affordable. And people ask us, like, why are your programs so affordable? Or how do you teach these types of... This is why we can teach these types of skills. So really, for under $1,000, you can learn this stuff. Am I really claiming that? Is that really true? Yeah, it's true. And anyone who has skills, we just focus on the skills. It's not about the hardware. It's not about the software. It's not about Raspberry Pi. We teach agnostic skills. What do I teach? I teach code theory. I teach the scientific method. We teach certain things like regular expressions and things like that. But really, what we're teaching anyone how to do is how to host whatever you know how to build. And if you're a developer, you probably know how to build all kinds of stuff I don't know how to build. Like, I know how to develop this stuff. Like, this is what I've spent all my time on. Like, I understand redundancy, high availability, disaster recovery, cloud clustering, blah, 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 like whatever. But what I don't necessarily spend as much time on is the stuff where, like, developers can create, like, all kinds of things beyond what I can do. And I can develop certain things. Sure, great. I've developed tools. But if you're a developer, all you need is something to strap your code to. And it doesn't really matter what infrastructure it's sitting on. Kubernetes is Kubernetes. You know how to work with Kubernetes? Work with the most affordable stuff that you can afford, or the stuff that's going to make it most possible for you to afford to launch whatever you're doing. Or because you want to spend as little money on like your tools and resources as possible, but still get what you need, because then you can put that money into staffing. And also, businesses want to know people who understand budget and understand how to make their company money and understand how to make their company build products and improve their products and make their products build more money for them. So this is why we teach people the stuff that can help you make more money in 2021. So now is the time. And so you should join either today or tomorrow, because come Friday, 2 o'clock Mountain Standard Time Friday, I'm going to be running through the DevSecOps. Now, I can't show you like our proprietary code stuff. Like, no, that's our proprietary stuff. We have some proprietary pieces. But I can show you like, I'm still going to do it all live, and even if I have like some of the proprietary bits on another screen, where I'm going to show you like my DevSecOps flow, I'm going to show you like my provisioning operation, I'm going to show you like what are the things that I understand are happening with the technology that our outsourcers use and things like that. And, like we put more money into labor than infrastructure in general. And there's a reason why I would much rather put my money into labor than infrastructure, because people can do all kinds of crazy stuff because people are incredible. And as long as human beings have enough, human beings will blow you away. People come up with the craziest stuff. So I just give people the tools to work and to be the best of whatever their skills are. So for anyone who's interested in joining the DevSecOps Dojo, we are, as part of our Black Friday special, is anyone who's joining our workshops is going to get roundtable access. Really, you'll get DevSecOps Dojo access for the rest of the month. So I actually am going to peel off to go spend time with my dojo to talk about like what do you get for being a roundtable member. That's something that I will talk to the roundtable about. And we're going to see what sounds awesome because we have some roundtable founders. So I'm about to go off to a roundtable founders meeting because the roundtable founders are the reason why I'm doing this in the first place, because they're the ones who also made the dojo possible. So for anyone else who wants in on this stuff, after I finish this meeting, I'll be letting people into the dojo who's not a roundtable founder, but you'll still get roundtable access if you join for the rest of November. If you join in December, you're just getting standard dojo access, which you're still going to get to learn everything everyone else is learning, but it'll take you to earn 3 belts, which takes about 10 months for most likely. We'll see. Some people might be prodigies out there. There's some brilliant people. I've been surprised time and time again. Never underestimate people, because the second you think that people might not be capable of something, or you'll be surprised. The people will blow you away. So anyways, I have faith in each and every one of you who's interested in doing this sort of thing, and anyone who really just wants to like get a hold of their career and strap their career. Now's the time to get going. And then let me see if I miss it, because I'm getting a few questions. Oh, a question about like how clustering works. So there's an interesting thing about the model that we've started building. So something in our DevSecOps Dojo, because I am going to go back to that in a bit, but one of the roundtable members actually made a statement that's worth answering to everyone. So, question of like, if you're going to work with a whole bunch of people to set up like a cloud where there's a whole bunch of people working together, if everyone has resources of their own, there can be one person who hosts, because this is what we're doing in the dojo, because we're going to build a cloud, and at first we're going to build an experimental cloud. And the way we're going to build an experimental cloud is we're going to use a VPN and launch a cloud that's hosted from everyone's distributed location off of everyone's internet, where I'll centralize the networking so that, like, because I have unlimited network traffic and whatnot, so people can like turn off their network who are learning, and they're like, if you're just in there to learn, you can see what it looks like to like join the VPN and scale in and out of the cloud, things like that when we're learning. And then eventually we will be getting a rack. So for the cool thing about building cloud is you can start on the smallest, like the minimum viable thing. If you're a business developer ever, you've probably heard of a minimum viable product. If you're just trying to start a project, just get something like this where you can start your cloud, start your cluster, and then you can just, let's say that you get more people who are remote working on your team, give them their kit, and then help make sure that they can afford the networking or however have you, or pay for their internet or something like that, and then have everyone connect to the same company VPN. You might have to teach them how to use VLANs, but that's why DevSecOps Dojo, we teach all those things for making it safe for people to like create a VPN-based hosted cloud where, people who are using the cloud as users, you could build a whole company with, like, let's say you have like 10 people who all know each other, who all buy these, right? And everyone's like, okay, let's go ahead and all just VPN together. That's 20 systems right here. Each of these have like 4 processing cores, and really 8 processing cores. There's quite a bit of resources in these things, actually. So that's like 20 systems that you can like cluster over and create what's called a distributed cloud, hosted over distributed resources. And when you get enough money to get fancier resources, you can actually go to a data center or what's called a co-location. This is probably way too much information. This is kind of really for the more senior people and hardcore people because it's a question from someone who's pretty hardcore. You can then build a rack that sits in what's called a co-location or an actual data center with the big multi-million-dollar systems. And instead of needing like a whole wall, all you really need is like 1 or 2 racks. And then you can get the benefits of like the high-speed data transfers of the data center and then set your VPN there, where now once you make enough money to do that, the thing is you can start making money before you can afford to move to a co-location. You can start making money from home. Just like build your thing, host your stuff, make money to start affording to scale it, and then you can just keep scaling. Really, the sky's the limit. And you can even scale from Raspberry Pi hardware and start integrating beefier systems, because Kubernetes does. You can structure Kubernetes to work to make your Raspberry Pi systems work with multi-million-dollar systems down the road. Let's say that you make $1 million. Great, awesome. You probably do want to get some beefier stuff because you can afford it. Then it might make sense to go get some beefy things and add it to your cloud cluster and still keep the resources, especially the RAM, because these things have RAM. So these things, no matter what you're adding to your infrastructure, you still get RAM out of these things. And in these cores, you still get a few more like distributed threads and whatnot. And so it's really just an infinitely scalable model. We teach an infinitely scalable model where you can just keep growing your business as your business grows, because that's what we do. If I'm going to start a business, why would I? So I've had to deal with launching products where we had to retire the product and it was a real pain. And then you migrate to the new hardware and then you retire and you migrate to the new hardware. It's a real pain. I now prefer to just make something where you can just keep adding hardware, keep adding hardware, keep adding hardware. Let's say that all of a sudden one of these systems dies, or 2 of these systems dies, or 20 of these systems dies. Who cares? As long as you have enough systems, or at least you have some systems still running, everything stays up and running. Nothing goes offline. The cloud stays up. The cloud keeps running. And when I was doing the demo day last month, what some people might not have noticed is I actually had a failure where I was teaching a cloud hacking workshop, and then after that, one of my nodes failed. But I run everything on what's called a high availability model, and so the demo could continue going because my cloud didn't go down, because as long as there's one system that's running, you can keep doing your demos, keep doing your stuff. So really, cloud technology is also the best demo platform ever, and also something like this is like the most affordable demo platform on the planet. So if you're just trying to do like field demos for your cloud stuff, don't spend a whole lot of money on your demo stuff. That makes no sense. Like, these things are also portable and modular. You can take them with you. So anyways, like, really going back to, like, if you get the bundle to kind of get started with our hardware, get the whole set, get the whole kit. Let me go back to kind of show you how that works. If you did want to spend under $1,000, because we have more expensive options, but let me just show you the easiest way to get started. The easiest way to get started is with this Olympiad Edition Pied Tinker bundle. This is what I just recommend. Anyone, just like, go get this, because you can scale. You can get another one later. You can get a third one later. You can get 50 later. You can get like 20 later. Who cares how many you want to get later? Just get something that works. That's the joy of cloud. Start with something that works. Add as you can. Awesome. Maybe you need more money later. Who cares? Get what you can afford. Start. Quite frankly, the smartest thing you can do is start for the thing that's affordable for what you have. If you don't have unlimited dollars laying around, floating around everywhere, falling from the sky and falling from your pocket, don't go around trying to get things that are like impossible to afford. Instead, get the stuff the reason why this is affordable is because we can afford to deliver these services at this cost. Meanwhile, there's not a lot of ways to deliver these services at this cost, and quite frankly, that's just the truth. So that's why we do what we're doing. Happy Black Friday month, because we're doing Black Friday all month long. We might see if we can come up with like some hoodie designs or something like that a little later, but this is our big deal. And really, I'm saying for $900, you can change your life in 2021. You can have an online career. You can have an industry that's hot and hiring. You can know some of the world's most advanced skills. You'll have experience with the thing. You'll have a way to learn Kubernetes at home. So when someone's like, do you know how to do this thing? Well, maybe you don't, but you can go home and figure it out because you got the infrastructure at home and you didn't have to pay. Like my server sitting here that I started the business on, my server that I run the business on cost me $6,000 to get going. And that system, it's the one I'm streaming on right now, it's not even what I do my development on anymore because this is actually just easier to develop on anyways because it's easier for me to scale. It's really hard for me to go and get another $6,000 system to try to scale that system into a cloud. I'm not going to do it. It's not even smart. From a business continuity standpoint, it's not even a good idea for someone who knows what I know to spend money to do something that I can do on this. It just doesn't even make sense. So that's why I teach the skills, so that other people can know how to do this stuff, and maybe you do want to launch a business in a year. It might take you 6 months to learn the skills, but most people, if you don't have the skills, you got to get the skills first. Some people are prodigies. Some people can do things without having skills or without having guidance. And I've seen some people like DIY some stuff with Googling. But with Google, there's a lot of months lost with Google while we fast track you. And if you want to not spend a whole year where it's taking you till 2021 to know this stuff, then you really need to get into this stuff now. So anyways, I need to switch over to my roundtable meeting. So thank you for all those who are on the roundtable who are watching. I'm going to switch over and kind of talk more about roundtable privileges with all of you so we can kind of figure out like what do we want to do with all of the new members coming in. And I appreciate all of you because really we wouldn't be doing the dojo if people didn't want to do it. And so I'm going to talk to the people who made it get going, and then we're opening the doors. So everyone, I would strongly recommend get in before Friday, this coming Friday, if you want to see us develop a product, see how we do our DLC expansion, and really. Like you can do the same stuff with tools like Moodle, and you can even create your own images. I don't even think that this entity right here is. I don't even think that's a company that's owned by Moodle. You can go and you can check the code and double check to make sure that it's clean and things like that. From a security standpoint, scan the things that you pull that you didn't make. So you might have to scan it. But you don't even have to know how this person built this. You can reverse engineer these things to learn stuff. So anyways, thank you everyone. I have to get moving to my things. I appreciate all of you. And join our programs. I'm excited to show you all the stuff that we've figured out and that I've done for years. And I'm happy to get you all doing the same kinds of things that anyone who wants to do cloud stuff is capable of doing. Just